My name's Gowri Savoor. I'm a visual artist and a teaching artist, and I work mainly in sculpture and painting. I live in central Vermont, but I have spent most of my life in England, in the northwest of England, in Manchester. I've always had a very powerful relationship with the environment, both through work and play, and try and use materials that are specific to that region. So when I was living in England, I'd be using willow and hazel, apple, a little bamboo, trying to create sculptures that evoke a sense of magic and delight. And then I've also tried to create work that creates other worlds. So that might be portals that you would be able to interact with, that might be really transformational in terms of where it sends your mind. So taking your mind to another place in the same way that I feel when I go for a walk in the woods, I always feel transformed. Community is another big aspect. I like to create work that the public can interact with. This is a giant bed. All the quilt was actually stitched from hopes and dreams that was anonymously sent into a website. And I stitched them all together to create this quilt. You could sit underneath the bed. In 2007, I moved to Vermont, which was a huge change for me. I was completely out of my element. I went to an artist residency program, and all of a sudden I was addressing questions in my work and about the environment that I'd never encountered, really. I was using a whole new, different set of materials, and for the first time really experiencing what winter really means. The biggest challenge for me was nature. And I would really try and use materials that were here. These are maple seeds, but I would also use dogwood and birch, wild cherry, materials that I wasn't really able to get my hands on in England. So that was a new challenge for me. And I began to push the boundaries of those materials. So I realized that I could manipulate nature by this process of hydration and then starvation. I'd feed these seeds water, they'd create ecosystems, and then I'd take the water source away and I'd really mess them up. And realized that there was nothing I could do to stop the process of nature happening. It was completely unstoppable. And which was really humbling. So I'm trying to create these really complex sculptures with work that was literally falling apart. So I realized very quickly that I could manipulate it by completely withdrawing it from the elements and removing all heat and humidity. And that way I could stop the cycle. And that was the only way to stop the cycle. It was completely keep it away from any water or heat. So I was essentially just locking nature up in a tower. Which seemed a little strange. And I also had a few surprises. So this is a black locust seed. This was stitched, 93 feet of black locust seed was stitched with cotton thread. And on the outside, it looks like this really boring, unassuming seed pod, but it's deadly if ingested by humans and horses. And then on the inside, you can only get to the inside. I'll get back to the inside of it. There's a slide later on. In all these sculptures, I try and keep a simplicity of the materials, so as few materials as possible, but which is very difficult when something is decaying. So I started at this point in 2011 to attempt to move away from working with nature and started focusing a lot more on the documentation process, trying to concentrate more on getting really good photographs. I was learning a lot from Andy Goldsworthy, and trying to really think about my relationship was with the work and why I was making it. This is the inside of the black locust seed, so it's this beautiful gold, iridescent, like a mother of pearl, and you would never know from the outside. The only way to really see that is when the seed pod is dry. All of these have been stitched with a sewing machine onto typar, which is that indestructible fabric that you put under your weeds to stop the weeds from growing. So at this point, I was starting to move towards making my work a lot more permanent. I started to work with harder shelled seeds. I started to work with steel and really concentrate on looking at the landscape, the changing rhythms, the topography, and just trying to create these alternative landscapes from the topographic forms. These are apple seeds that have been pierced onto steel. The ephemeral is something that I really focus on a lot as one of my themes in my work as well, and just really looking at the changing nature of life cycles and how nothing really stays the same. it was also, looking at the ephemeral also gave me a chance to just examine the transient nature of our lives as well. And what it means to have relationship to one another, the relationship to the land, and what it really means to have a sense of place and how volatile that is. So in this whole body of work that happened over the last few years, I was looking really at the fragile relationship that we have with the environment. They're very precarious, everything's held in tension, they're strong, but at the same time they're extremely delicate, and it's really reaching that balance. This is one of the pieces that's in the show, and really I'm moving much more towards this balance between fragility but permanence as well, working with a 3D printer, creating seeds, which are made from PLA biodegradable plastic made from cornstarch, and really trying to find a balance now between the fragile and the permanent. This is another piece, Boundaries. It just really shows my layering process. There's a lot that goes into the work that you just wouldn't really see on the surface. But this is all, it's like a survey of division. So it's all the different ways in which we create barriers and walls around us, right from bedrock through to cadastrals and star maps. This is the last piece that's in the show. It's been a really wonderful opportunity working for such a long period of time on one body of work. Having a year and a half to build 3 pieces has been a real gift. It's not really, we don't get that much of an opportunity to really focus on one thing, and looking at the land has been a real challenge for me, so thank you.